What's up, Schmoville? Welcome to the first episode of the Kristian Harloff Podcast. And what the hell is this thing? Well, this is something I wanted to do for a very long time. And I always said I was just going to interview some people, sit down, shoot the shit with whoever was around to kind of just figure out what the hell's going on and have conversations about, like I said, whatever. I mentioned it on the Schmoes Show. If you're watching the Schmoes Show, if you're listening to the Schmoes Show, that's exactly why you're going to get these special podcasts, whether it's mine or Ellis or maybe the Finstock Initiative, God help us all. Miri and Sasha might be doing something. There's a whole bunch of shows that are coming down the pipeline that if you're part of this RSS feed, you're going to get those shows. So I figured today what I was going to do is I was going to talk to somebody that I know that you guys like hearing from and that I like speaking to, and they weren't available, so I was able to get the producer of the show. She is here as she slaps me on the shoulder, Miri Jedeikin. What's up, Miri?
Hello. A little whiskey out of the bottle.
Well, I figured, we're not holding back. Definitely doing a couple swigs here of the old, what is that, the Tullamore Dew?
This is a bottle that Brett Sheridan bought me. It is Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. He knows I like Irish whiskey. And he bought it for me, specifically for me. I will have the rest of Schmoes Know. And so I hid it in your office, and you did not know.
I did not know.
That it was in your office for a full week. And when I came back the following week, I pulled it out from my hiding place, and people saw, and now it's almost empty, and I'm very sad.
You should have just hid it at the time when Ellis had that mountain of garbage on his desk.
No, but
you should have hid it
the
in there.
ants would have gotten to it.
The ants would have carried it away and drank the whiskey. It's true. Drunk ants all over the place.
Drunk ants.
So, I mean, you and I, obviously, we're pals, and we talk, but I don't know if we've ever really shared stuff to the audience and about you, kind of like who you are. I know that you were on the Josh McCouga show, and you talked a little bit.
Yeah, I was on Josh McCouga's show once. He never had me back.
Which is, I wonder what. I'm sure he'll have you back again. It was a good episode.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, I don't know. It was too much for him.
Why, were you overpowering?
No, I don't know. I just talked about like Montreal and my upbringing and.
When did you move to LA?
2001.
Why did you move to LA?
Because I don't like winter.
That's the only reason you moved to LA? I was like,
well,
out of all the places you chose, LA?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment or fashion, and where I'm from, there aren't really the same level of opportunities, number of opportunities, and no winter.
Okay, but so entertainment and fashion. So we obviously know that you're a movie buff and that you used to watch movies with your pops. Did your dad got you into it?
My whole family. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and my siblings are a fair bit older than me. Okay. So I grew up with just a lot of different. We were all lovers of film and television and music. It was always playing in our house, and I think I just grew up with a lot of influences very young. So I just loved movies. I don't know who taught me. I think my brother was a huge sci-fi nerd.
Who's the biggest movie buff in your entire family?
I think, my mom and my brother both know a lot. My dad knew a lot. Okay. My dad was more like World War II movies. Okay. So I grew up on like Bridge on the River Kwai and Tora and all these like crazy movies that we had on VHS.
That's got to be interesting too, to try to get your kid to watch Bridge over River Kwai. And how long before you actually caught on and said, okay, I'm going to watch this? You got bored out of your mind the first time.
I heard it because I was probably already in bed, but I heard it my entire childhood.
Because he would just play it. My dad was like that. My dad was like that with Platoon.
Yeah, Platoon's a great. Oh, well, he was in the shit.
Yeah, he was in the shit. So my dad would watch like Platoon was the one. That was his Star Wars.
What about Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, not as much.
Too
Platoon.
artsy.
Yeah, I don't know if it was too artsy. It was just he liked that one, but the one that he always like Platoon. Like he still to this day quotes it with Barnes.
What about Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah, he liked Full Metal Jacket a lot. That one
I love
watched. Yeah, but that to me. But anyway, so you got hooked through your family.
I got hooked through my family, but I think it's one of those things where you just know what you're into really young. Like I knew I loved movies. When I was like 5 years old, we had VHS tapes, obviously, because I'm old. And we had like My Fair Lady. Yeah. And Wizard of Oz. Okay. And West Side Story. And I think I wore out the tapes of all three. Because you watched them
so many times.
I watched them over and over again.
I
can still recite.
Of course, you see
almost all of them.
Burns into your memory.
But I feel that way about like Wayne's World also, so I'm not really precious about it.
There's a lot of them.
I like all different kinds of movies.
So you then get addicted to TV, or movies, and then the fashion thing. But and you modeled at one point. Was that Canada or was that here?
No, it was all
both?
over. It was all over.
Where did it start?
Started in Montreal.
And can we stop at the modest thing though too? Because you got to stop at the modest thing though. Because a lot of people.
I wasn't a good model. I lasted very short amount of time.
But also that's the thing that I always find this, and I think that everybody listening knows this as well too, is that really pretty women know that they're pretty, but then some of them like just kind of are obnoxious about it, and others are very modest about it too.
Well,
but you can use it though, to your advantage on things you don't use.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to stay off the pole, but
but it's not your only tool, is what I'm saying.
No, it's not. Yeah. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I've always been of the belief, and I think it's because I was raised by like academics,
right?
That it's great to look good, but it fades.
Right.
So you really shouldn't even kind of include it as part of your personal identity. So I've been told I look good. That's great. I try not to
but that's what I'm saying though. But you can look at your face. You know if you're not attractive or you are attractive. You look at yourself. You go, I look good. You know you do. Come on, don't lie.
You're projecting right now.
I don't ever do that about myself. I'll tell you that right now. I look like drunk Dane Cook.
I think Dane Cook looks like drunk Dane Cook.
That's true. Right now he does. But yeah. But I'm just saying. I always know it's like the modest girl. Like to where, and I get it. So you go, but you go to school. Yeah. And where did you go to school? Did you go to school in Montreal?
I went to all the way through. I went to Jewish private high school.
Okay.
Which was not fun.
No, why?
Because I was about
picked on, or you didn't like?
Oh yeah, picked on, and I didn't like. It's a really small community. I don't want to badmouth anybody because there's a lot of wonderful people in the Jewish community of Montreal, and I have many of them are my friends.
Did you get picked on because of religion stuff?
No, I got picked on because I don't know. I stood out physically. Okay. I was like 5'10" at 14. And
oh wow.
For Jewish people, that's like an anomaly.
Right.
I don't know. At least in my school, I felt like a giant, and I used to get called giraffe and horrible things.
That's gotta be tough. What was and that was when you were how old?
Like 13 or 14, or I don't know. I like shot up and got really tall, and I didn't shoot up like heroin.
That would have been interesting.
I shot up.
I'll show you guys. Tapping up, come out all strung out.
Here, let me show you what I can do.
Requiem for a Dream in a Jewish school.
Yeah, that would be really fucking crazy. No, I just didn't. I didn't ever fit in. I never felt like I fit in, which now I recognize is a good thing.
Yeah.
But at the time, when my horizons weren't quite as broad, it was hard. I think
most people
go through this.
Well, you feel a little trapped, and because
I knew I was going to leave Montreal.
Well, I was the same way when I was in New York. I just and I loved being in New York, but in Queens, it's like a specific life. I have friends that have lived there and still live there, like never left. I just knew that I was never doing that, and I knew, and because when I was younger, also same thing. Like I got picked on when I was in the 7th, 8th grade, and I just felt like I was more of like trying to tell jokes all the time.
Why'd they pick on you?
I just didn't fit in. It was more. It was the same. It was the same thing.
It's like they can smell it.
Yeah, and it was more or less because I was. But I fell back. I had humor to use. Like I could get out of situations with jokes and stuff too. But I just always knew I was getting out. And then in Queens, like I don't know if I've told you this or not too. Like there was a big gang thing happening in Queens. I got caught up in all that shit for a little while.
What?
When I was
gang?
When I was in the Catholic high school. I know, in the Catholic high school, and then I had a girlfriend, God bless her, that got me out of all that shit. And then
gnarly. What's the gnarliest thing you ever did as a gang member?
I can't believe I know, but it's when I was really. It was really. That's what you never heard the Sice jokes on the After Hours show. On the first one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was all the same thing. That's stupid.
I didn't know what that was.
I was a stupid kid that got myself into shit. So I understand to where, and that was also came from not fitting in at once and then trying to fit in and then realizing you don't. I think when you're younger, you don't really know who you are, and you start to figure that out. So with you, when did you start to figure it out?
Well, I think I always had a healthy kind of skepticism for pretty much everything, including myself.
Yeah. Like
I was always like, wait a second, is this really what I think about things? Or like a very analytical kind of mind. I've always had that. When you were
younger and everything too.
Always. Yeah. I think maybe, again, it's like being the youngest in a big family where there's a lot of people and there's a lot of voices and there's a lot of personalities.
Yeah.
You kind of learn young that everything is kind of up for grabs, I guess. I don't know.
Where's that come from? Does that come from your mom or your dad?
I think both.
Both?
I think both my parents were like were pretty like philosophical people and like intellectually they want to like go there. They want to go deep. So. And
you've always been like that too?
Yeah, I like being real. I'm not really good at artifice.
No,
I'm
you're
not.
Really,
I'm not
no,
really.
You're not.
I have zero poker face. Yeah. If I don't like someone, they usually know it.
Right.
And if I don't like them, it's usually because I've had enough time around them.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that at this stage I'll have like a bad vibe from somebody right out of the gates and not give them a chance.
Right.
But if I've given somebody a chance and I just think they're shitty, usually after.
You've made up your mind and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So, I mean, can I ask you? You don't have to talk about it. But can I talk about crazy Miri?
Oh, I wasn't ever that crazy.
Stop it.
It's all relative.
You just said you were honest.
I mean, I'm not Kate Moss. It's not like I was like swinging from chandeliers.
Well, as far as we know, but you weren't doing heroin.
If I could have, I would have swung from chandeliers.
That's
but
right.
I was nervous about infrastructure and roofs falling on my head and stuff. So.
But was some people when they go nuts and they have like fun, kind of crazy times? Some do it to rebel. Some do it because they just want to have fun. What was the reasoning behind your craziness?
Well, first, and I said this when I was talking to Josh on his show, that like Montreal is very different, and I only realized this after I lived in the U.S. for a while. Even living in LA and living in New York, which are huge global cities, and they're kind of their own entities, and there's people from all over. I still think that Montreal is unique in the culture of nightlife because the drinking age is 18, or at least it was when I lived there, and that's just a suggestion. Yeah. You basically can go out. You know, I was going to bars with my friends when we were like in the 8th grade, 9th grade, and parents knew about it, and it's just it's a smaller city, it's more manageable.
With a lot of like car crashes and kids getting sick and shit? Gotta be.
I mean, yeah, kids got sick, but there wasn't this like epidemic of like binge drinking and like girls on video and all this like crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it is now. Like I said, I was a teenager of many years ago, so. But a lot of kids were kind of doing what I was doing, so I didn't feel like it was such a rebellion so much as it was just like I like new experiences.
Right.
I'm, I guess, adventurous. I don't know. So there was a moment where I was really, really, I felt like you said, really trapped in my day-to-day life.
Right. So
and when I was like, yeah, you want to cut loose, you want to like let your hair down. I don't know. I started going to raves when I was like in 9th grade.
I would pay money to see Jedeikin raving. What were some of your friends?
I wasn't like a raver in terms of like, I had all these crazy dance moves or anything. I just would go to raves with my friends.
And have fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a long time ago. That was like in the 90s when raves were like it was like a new thing, and it wasn't, cheesy and weird and had been played out in a million movies or whatever. And so I don't know. I never looked at myself as like wild or crazy. I think that was later.
But you look back now, though, and you know it was wild.
Well, not so much when I was a teenager. I think it was more when I moved to LA.
Really? That's when you hit the craziest?
Yeah, in my 20s.
Oh, do tell. Let's tell what you can tell. What you can tell. What you're allowed to tell.
It's probably better if I don't say anything.
Anything at all?
I don't know.
What's the safest story that you can tell, that you're allowed to tell, that only a couple thousand people will listen to?
I just got embroiled in some like fun, weird like situations in LA.
You lead with fun. That's a good thing.
Fun, yeah, fun. I mean, I think I was. I don't know. I'm a creative person, and there's like a million things I could do. So I've never felt settled in any career I've had, and I've had like a few.
Are you a hippie? Would you think you're a hippie?
Your wife told me that she thought I was a hippie. She's like, "Oh, you're a hippie," and
Wait a minute. You're not my wife.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
am I your wife? I don't know. Let's leave that.
This is something to talk about, because this is something, again, if you're getting.
Should we whisper?
Yeah, we should whisper. Okay, so right now, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Miri, are you and I married?
No. Yes, we are married, actually.
We are married.
We are.
Okay, are we married to one another?
No.
Thank you. So finally, we're discussing this. We've never discussed this before. We're talking about it now.
This is it.
Why does everyone think we're married?
I think people equate on-camera chemistry, or when people get along and have a good rapport. I think it happens in movies. People are like, "Oh, they're sleeping together," or whatever. I don't know. I think it's just human nature to speculate. I don't mind it. I think it's funny.
It is funny. We've kind of played with it for sure, and like you mentioned with Whispergate too. Yes, guys, it was the April Fool's joke, and then we were about to tell everybody the next day.
And then we were like, "Nah."
And we're like, you know what? Just let it play. Let's let it play.
Sasha was totally in on it.
It was a lot of fun to do, but yeah, it's like we get it all the time, no matter what. Anytime we do a review, and it's like, and I think, and the funny thing is that your husband is an awesome dude. Talk to him often, and you talked to my wife. And the funny thing is that you guys kind of look similar, so that definitely helps.
Which is a compliment, by the way, because Sadie's babe.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Breaking scoop here on the Kristian Harloff episode 1.
Share it with your friends.
And the funniest thing is, though, if they just went back and watched the Makuga episode, he asked you that same exact question, and you gave the same exact answer. Yeah. So there you go, breaking scoop here today. But let's go back to you being a crazy hippie.
Oh God.
So you're a crazy hippie.
I'm not a crazy hippie.
You get over and so were there like crazy fun Vegas trips or Rio trips? Yes, both.
Not Rio.
I was just.
I'm waiting for my plane. Anybody who wants to send me a plane ticket to Rio.
But you would have. But so 20.
Oh, yeah,
how old were you when you came over here?
I was 20, like right after I finished university.
So 22,
22.
Okay,
23.
so yeah, that's right in the wild years. So you're 22, 23, and dudes are like.
I wasn't wild right out of the gates in LA.
Took you a little bit.
I had a couple of years.
What
it was
got
more
you into
like
the wild
25.
All right, so what's the transformation from Bruce Banner into Hulk?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I met.
It was
I guess it was just like people I met who were like out on the scene, and I started going out. And
What's the
fun.
scene? Just out on the clubs and stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what was hot when I was going out? Like Teddy's was like the big like hot club that everybody went to at the Roosevelt, which is I think still there, but I don't know what it's doing now. But when I had a friend who was the door girl, and she used to just like let us in, and then we would just get, me and my 4 girlfriends, like you just don't pay for drinks ever.
Right.
So you just go out and it's free,
right.
and like I had some fun. And then like a little bit of travel here and there, and I had a little bit of travel. I don't know. It's like all a big blur at this point, but I had a lot of fun. But I think it was also I had to kind of go through that to figure out what my
definitely. Well, that's where I was going to go next.
Because you're the same. You're in 2006 Harloff. We've all seen the photos.
Well, that was the thing, is that you go to a place to where, like you said, you don't know. You test the waters. You see, you have fun during those wild periods, but it's like it really is all like Vegas, because you can stay for about 4 days in Vegas, have a great time, and then you stay longer than 4 days, then it starts to weigh on you. And I think that's equivalent to the lifestyle as well too, because you and I, again, both married, both with children, and that's a totally different direction to the direction we're talking about.
But I'm so happy. I've never been happier. I think you're probably the same. Like, I wouldn't have been able to be happily married and have a family if I hadn't experienced everything I did. So I think it was all good. Right.
Because that's a great point, because you hate to be that person that let's say you're 18 years old, you get, and I'm not playing down on anybody who does this, but you're 18 years old and you get married to the person you've been with for like 4 years when you're 14, and then you're married, and then you look and you're 35, 40, whatever, and you say to yourself, oh, I wonder what, because I think that happens a lot, and I think that kind of turns people to go down a path maybe that they don't want to go.
And do bad things and be a bad person. See, my fear that I think has helped guide me is that I don't ever want to look back and say, I wish I had done that.
Right.
So I
you did it already.
Because I do. So that's why I do everything.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't want to look back and be like, God, I should have taken that trip. Or I should have gone out that night when I said I was just going to stay in or whatever. So it can be exhausting, but I think it's also a really good thing to, like within reason. And as long as you're respecting yourself and loving yourself, like, you go have a good time, especially in your 20s.
Yeah, and I think that's also a double standard sometimes, is when, if a girl is having a lot of fun and going sometimes people will be like, oh, she just got problems, or she likes to have fun. There are some people.
I've been judged a lot in my life. I've heard rumors, because also Montreal's tiny, so you hear about yourself. And I've heard all kinds of things about myself, and I just laugh because I'm like, I'm actually good. Like, I'm actually fine. So, but that's the other thing too that's good about getting picked on when you're young, or like having any issues when you're young, is for any of you that are listening who might have that experience right now in your life, if you're like not feeling like you fit in or people are mean to you, it has given me so much now as an adult because of my perspective on things. Like going through that experience then was a nightmare because I didn't realize it was so ephemeral and it was going to go away. Now, when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, fuck all you idiots. You're all still living in the same city. You haven't had the life I've had, and too bad for you.
And you get to just kind of move on and do your thing.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about, though. I want to go backwards here. Well, as far as you and I go.
This is like regression therapy. Like, you're going to take me back. We're going to do hypnosis.
This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do on the show. I kind of want to get into this with everyone that I am able to talk to, because I think that it's interesting for Schmoeville and interesting for me, too. I mean, like I said, I know you and I work together a lot now, and so I know a lot about you, but I'm also finding new things out. And then we met through the AMC days, and see, I didn't know who the hell you were. I was like, I remember walking in, because the way that, I don't know if I told you this story. So
you never told me this story.
I never told you this story?
No.
All right. So
although my memory is pretty spotty, so
I might have told you about 3 times. Yeah, that's from all those times in Vegas from
it's
the billionaires flying out there.
I blame Mom. I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I'm just going to say that I'm a mother now, and I don't have any memory. We're doing a podcast.
Yes. Let me interrupt anything. So it's Mark L. So this is the whole point of this show, is that at any given time,
he's wearing an inside-out shirt.
Hey, look, this is the office before the show, okay? We don't podcast. We don't play music. Nobody has any fun here.
Okay, Dad.
I edit, and I go to islands. That's all we do.
How do you like the new setup? Mark just walked into our office, and I had set up my new desk.
It looks nice.
Yeah.
It may not bode well for your physical appearance in the future because the treadmill's gone and replaced by a desk where you cannot walk while you're working.
You can fake walk.
I could fake walk.
You know what you could do? You ever seen those ab things? You just strap to your abs and they just electroshock them.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you can get ripped abs at work.
Is that true?
You can be our guinea pig.
If you put the company expenses in, then I'll try it.
I think maybe that's
just
a
get them
Harloff
to sponsor
expense.
you.
Yeah. But Mark, we were talking about how we're going to be putting all these kind of special podcasts now on the RSS feed.
Mm-hmm.
You will probably be doing something as well here.
I don't,
you don't know yet.
Neither here nor there. Maybe I get drunk and talk sports with somebody, or talk about music, or something. Maybe even a movie thing, comedy. It doesn't matter. I'm excited that you guys are kicking this off. We get to see what it looks like.
That's what a high five sounds like.
What is the name of this little ditty?
This is the Kristian Harloff podcast.
It's a Kristian Harloff
This
podcast.
is it.
And your
It's the
first
one I
guest
told you
is what makes
me.
sense.
His first guest is me.
Your wife, yeah. See, you'll be on there about episode 10 or 11.
10 or 11. Yeah, we finally cracked the code to let everybody know that
we let the cat out of the bag.
that Miri Jedeikin is not my actual wife.
Ah.
Why? Let him know. You know
Well,
what? Let him
hey,
know.
look, if you want him to know Bonnie Somerville's your real wife,
There you go.
Let's take it back.
right, you kids get the podcasting. I'm going to go do what the kids used to back in the day call work.
All right. Well, it was very nice to see you. We will edit this out.
Find me whiskey.
Okay, so let's get back into it's the AMC days, and so
Yeah,
what happened?
AMC, the story. You were going to tell me a story.
Well, I was working at The Bachelor. Did you know? You knew that?
I knew that only later.
I was a producer on The Bachelor.
You have to say that like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I was a producer on The Bachelor. I was watching people get the roses and say, "Come on, and do confessional. Are you here? Give me something in. It's smart." So anyway, I was working at The Bachelor, and during that time I was there, I worked in post.
Mm-hmm.
I was constantly working on Schmoes.
Yep.
Like I was editing, and I would kind of do, sending stuff out and sending it, whether it's booking fucking screenings and all that stuff. And we were building, Mark and I were kind of building the brand as I was working there too. But I was also obviously working there. But then after I don't know how many seasons, I stopped working there, and I didn't have anything really to do. We were doing okay on YouTube, but it was not enough to kind of support me and the family. So I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I started like just reaching out in general to people that I knew, and I reached out to Amy Rose, and I said, I had been on a guest as on AMC Movie Talk a handful of times, and I saw the posting that they were looking for. At the time, it was only one person. They were only looking for one person. I said, I'd like to put my hat in the ring for that. And so she said, yeah, is that something you'd want to do? I mean, you have Schmoes. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, this is a great opportunity. I love the show, and it wouldn't be, I'd be able to do both, I assume. And like, yeah. So went in there, talked to John, kind of hit it off with him, did the rounds as you did as well too, the interviews with like Schnepp and
Dennis.
And it was at this AMC Burbank over here, and we kind of did the interview, sat down, and they said they were going to do a couple tests. And I think that you and I did the test together. I'm pretty sure we did, because I walked in and I said, I remember walking out going, yeah, there was some woman there, but I don't know who she was. I haven't seen her. I knew Alicia, because Alicia had been on, I'd seen her, I met her through Fandango, and I knew her through her buddy. And then I heard a couple other people, but then this Miri Jedeikin person, I'm like, who is this person?
I came out of nowhere.
You did come out of nowhere.
That's what I do.
And then they announced that it was going to be not one, but three people, and it was myself, you, and Alicia. And I said, who is this lady? How did she start working here? And the question is, how did you start working there?
Well, I worked in Canadian TV for like 5 years, right? So I was like, I had all of this experience, and I knew everybody on the junket circuit, but nobody really knew who I was, because the show that I was producing and that I was on, it was TV. Yeah. It was on Canadian TV, on G4, and on City TV, which is like the Canadian sort of CBS or whatever. And it was then later on Reel's channel and some ABC affiliates, like once I had been there a couple of years. So I was their LA bureau chief, segment producer, host, Girl Friday. I did everything. But because I had done that for so long, and it was like my full-time gig, I didn't really freelance. So I wasn't really like out. I didn't know Schmoes. I didn't really know that AMC had a movie news show. Wow. Like I wasn't really in the web space.
You weren't caught up in that space at all.
I wasn't. I was in TV, and I had kids. So when I started at AMC, my little one was like 5 months old or 4 months old. Okay. So I was, I was kind of out of the loop for a little while. And that's how I knew Alicia because of junkets.
Okay.
So that's how I knew her.
Okay. How did you get the? Did you just apply like blindly?
How did I find it? Did someone send it to me? Well, I follow Frosty on. It was Frosty that posted.
Frosty, who runs Frosty Steve Weintraub, who runs Collider.
Frosty
I don't know.
Posted it. I think Frosty
did he? Because that was before Collider.
I think he retweeted it. He had Collider at that point, but
right.
he
retweeted.
Well, I think John's tweet.
Okay.
And then that's how I saw it, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of looking like I wasn't working full time. I wasn't working at all, really, because I just had a baby, and I wanted to get back. I wanted to throw my hat back into the ring and kind of like get more into the web space, and so it was kind of a good opportunity. And I didn't really know that much about it, and I didn't really know what it was other than what I had watched to get ready to interview for it. So it was like really kind of like a new thing. Okay. And then there it was, and then I did that.
Well, that's interesting though too, because I just hearing that is ballsy, because for me, Mark and I have been doing this since like 2008, and we've been able to kind of progressively learn about like the space, and as we saw our audience grow, we saw kind of what the internet does and the good things, the bad things. You experienced that all at once coming on AMC. Because AMC had a good following at the time that you came in. It was at least over 100 or 1,000 subscribers at the time.
Yeah, it was. I think they celebrated their 200K
while we were still on the show.
We were there.
Yeah. So they hit that 100. So you then, because this again goes back to our whole marriage conversation. All that shit started on AMC through the comment section. So people start rumors. People will compliment you. People will put you down. Like, how do you take that coming into it, not being familiar with the internet space?
It was really hard at first, especially because, like, you know, I'm really private about my kids and my private life. Like, to protect them really more than anything. So I, you know, just the whole interactive nature of putting something out there and having what you say either be celebrated, distorted, vilified, to have your appearance talked about, and as most people listening know, being a woman in this space,
you become a public persona.
Yeah,
and you were,
and I didn't know. Right. I really didn't know. It wasn't ballsy. It was ignorant. Like I just didn't know.
Well, I guess then the ballsy thing would be that you stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like now, and you know, like it's funny watching Brett, who's new to being on the internet in this way, because he did do stuff with like Felicia Day years ago.
Brett Sheridan, right?
Yeah, Brett Sheridan, and we talk about it, and we laugh about the trolls, but it is really difficult to like get past the trolls and how hurtful it can be. And I think a lot of people who troll don't realize that you're actually really hurting. I
think they realize. I think there's some fucked up people out there.
I know there are some fucked up people
kind
out
of
there.
like that. It's like the Joker, you know. Some people just want to watch it.
Yeah, but the Joker's like interesting. I think these people are probably all really boring. But anyway, but I was talking to Brett about it, and I said you kind of have to. It's almost like, I hate to be graphic, but it's like popping your cherry. Like you just have to like get used to it and deal with it, and then it doesn't even. It's like not like now when I read negative comments, I just am like, oh well.
Well, you know,
like I don't even. Yeah, and I don't.
Right.
I know it's coming, and I've had enough time to kind of process that these are people I have never met. I probably will never meet. They don't mean anything. Their comments don't mean anything. And I just let it like slide off my back. And I think it took a while to get
well,
there.
The flip side of that is that then you get the positive comments.
Yeah, and there's a lot more positive.
Right, and there'll be like ones, thank you for doing what you do. I love the ones that we get for Schmoes. It's just like, you guys help me. Like the ones that when people are in like the hospital and like they're watching stuff and we're helping. Like there are like that's, even though it's fun sometimes to address the idiots, it's like the good ones should be addressed even more.
I agree, actually. And I think I have to give a shout out to Schmoville, because when I first came to be a guest on Schmoes Know, I was blown away by how nice and welcoming and warm and friendly the fan base is. It's not typical. It's not typical in the web space. It's not typical in like film blogger sphere or whatever you want to call it. And it was also kind of different from the AMC comments thread, which was a lot more aggressive, I think. There was also a lot of positivity there, but it was so resoundingly positive that I was like, this is like something special. Like, there's a special thing here.
Well, you know that I was skeptical about bringing you on Schmoes the first time?
Really?
Very first time, like back in Phase 5.
Back in Phase 5, way back.
Back when we were still on AMC together, and I think we were only on, it was kind of early, so you and I hadn't even really hit any vibe, like, working together on AMC.
Well, it's also, it was much different than Schmoes. Like, it wasn't really like a chatty personality.
No, you'd come in,
show.
You'd come in, it's changed a bit since.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
But when we'd come in and we would just be assigned to one particular day, you do the spot and then you take off. and you and I didn't really. I mean, I don't think we really started kind of hanging out and being friends until a little later. So just like do the gig, and so I didn't really know you.
We weren't on the show that much together.
I think that's kind of one of the things I remember thinking, because I didn't, and I probably unfairly I was like, this hot girl probably just throws her looks around, and I judged you at first, and I was like,
you wouldn't be the first,
and
I judged you won't be the last.
And I judged you, like, she seems a little kind of, maybe she's stuck up. I don't know. And then once you talk to Miri, you're like, she's the farthest thing from stuck up, and like she said, she's very honest.
Thank you.
When I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's see, because that's the thing for me. I believe that Schmoes, the show, is a test of people to come in, show their personality and who they really are. Because AMC, you've got to, and Collider, you got to prove you know your shit.
Yep.
Which is great. Yes, when you're on AMC and when you're on Collider, you need to know the topics, because the fans will smell you out, and you have 30 minutes to an hour to do it. As where Schmoes, you have to know your shit. But I think that I've always kind of, and I've always said this, and I've been public on it, like I've always kind of modeled it after. Oh shit!
Did it stop?
No, we're still going. Sorry.
We thought we lost you.
We lost you, but I've always modeled it after. I've always wanted to do the Howard Stern show for movies, and by that I don't mean just
no Sibian.
No Sibian, or just kind of, or just being outrageous to be outrageous.
Yeah.
But it's showing the crew's personality and showing who they are and what the vibe is, and like that's what Stern's always done, is that he's brought in everybody. If somebody, like, for a perfect example, and I don't know
Baba
when you
Booey.
Papa Fufai and Cobb could be Cobb. Like if you don't know this episode I'm talking about at the time, I don't know when you're listening to this, but the last week's show, Cobster was legitimately pissed off.
So amazing.
He was pissed off because like he
got yelled at. You yelled at him.
Well, you guys didn't have a whiteboard.
That was not our fault.
I found the thing, by the way. It was in a fucking box somewhere. But anyway, it was there was no pictures for the Fuel for Fit. There was nothing. So we brought it up on the air, and then Cobster off on the side goes, "We're doing everything we can, man." And I never
It was so good.
And I never saw him blow up like that. And that's where I took from Stern, when you see shit go down like that, get that person to a mic immediately.
Yeah.
And Cobster was game. He ran to the mic and he gave us one of the best moments we've ever had.
It was amazing. Angry Cobster.
And so
good.
And so when you came on the show back again in Phase 5 and we had you on, it was a matter of like, what is she going to do? How is she going to handle it? And you did. You handled it well. And you were able to vibe with it. And you also, going back to that example of AMC, yes, she can talk about movies, but if we start talking to her about personal shit, is she going to hang or is she going to like clam up? And you certainly didn't clam up, and the exact opposite. You'd go into warrior mode when it comes to this shit. You and Sasha together, holy shit.
She's my girl.
It is, but it becomes like, because people don't realize when we did that personal questions game, like you guys were like two like teenage girls in here, like beforehand, like just getting ready for it. It was amazing.
She brings that out in me.
Yeah, so,
she really does.
Yeah, what is it about Sasha and how did you meet Sasha?
Oh, the way Sasha and I met is the best.
Let's go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back like 10 years.
Do it.
I was transitioning out of brand management and PR, which is what I used to do in like fashion, lifestyle, and whatever. And I hated it, and I knew I should be doing something different. And so I found this like kind of in the meantime gig that was like a marketing job, but it ended up being like this really sketchy guy that had a house in like West Hollywood right near Earth Cafe, and he was running like this. It was like in the early days of YouTube when people were like iJustine had just started, and like it was people were still like building audiences, and he had all these like ways to like do this like user generated music contest, and he hired like all of these people. There were like 7 of us, and it was me and a couple of other people and Sasha Pearl River.
Wow.
And that's how we met, and we both were like, this guy is
cuckoo.
Yeah, this is not legit. Right. And then it all exploded, and I never saw her again, except for like that was like in 2006 maybe 2007. So then I was at a junket. I think it was like for Tron Legacy. It was like, I don't know, it was a long time ago, but it was a couple years later. I was at a junket and I saw her and she saw me, and I was like, you guys
knew each other right away?
Yes. Wow. We were like, oh my God, what are you doing here? And so that's like, we met not even related to movie stuff.
You guys can't get away from each other.
No, but and at that point we started becoming friendly. And then a couple years ago we started talking about ideas for shows, and we're still like working on stuff. And I would like to think that I was a tiny bit instrumental in getting her into Schmoes and like coaxing you to like bring her in.
Yeah,
because I knew she would. I knew she would do well with this. That
goes back to another thing that I said before. Like, and I don't know if I ever told Sasha this. I definitely told you. I didn't like Sasha when I first met her.
Oh, I know.
But the funny thing is that I met Sasha actually in 2006. It's actually true.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Not in any other way, and then just like she was friends with Mark Riley's ex-wife.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we used to be at parties together all the time.
That's right.
We were at so many parties together.
They're not friends anymore, by the way.
No, they're not. But she still runs in with some of those people in the same circles. But we definitely had conversations. Definitely knew each other. And then so Mark and I, when we started doing our top 5 show for movies.com, we actually started that with this company called Mahalo.
Mm-hmm. I know that
So
company.
they brought in this female host like right after us for this other show, and this girl flags us down and goes, hey, can you guys tell me like what would you guys do here? And like this note, like what do you think? Like, and goes down this whole list, and she's like, thanks, bro, and takes off, and I'm like, who's that? Sasha.
That's amazing.
So then I'm like, okay, so we talked to her for like, it must have been 10 minutes. Then I run into her at this screening, and I'm like, hey, and she's like, hey, and that's it. I'm like, okay, so this is a quick hey. Then I see her again in another screening, and just totally like just gives me a flyby. Then did that consistently and I'm like, you know what? F that girl. I'm like, I'm done with it. Don't need it.
Yep.
And then I think you said to me, or someone said to me, I want Sasha Palraver on the show.
I said it.
And I said, no. I'm like, no,
it was me.
I'm good.
I remember. And I was like, what? And
like,
you were like, no, she doesn't ever remember me.
Yeah,
you were like, I'm insulted.
Yeah, but it wasn't an ego thing. It was just like, if you kept saying to someone like, hey, my name is, and you give them 3 times to remember, and if they don't remember the third, then
I've done that. I've been guilty of that.
But then when you get to know Sasha, you realize she's just so like 100 different miles, going so many different directions. But so I don't know how you convinced me, but you convinced me to have her on, and I'm so glad you did because she did. She brought. I think she brings everything that I loved about Katie Sackhoff, and everything that I think that Alicia was really good at. And Tiffany and Catherine Reitman. She is kind of like the total package to where she does the thing where she can talk about independent films, she can talk about the blockbuster film, she can talk about personal questions, she can talk. I mean, this is why. I mean, because the fans, and I've seen that the fans, there are half the fans who love Sasha and half the fans who love to hate Sasha. And I'll tell you what.
That's good.
I love that because she gets people talking. And I also will tell you that she ain't going nowhere because Sasha is someone to me that brings up such a conversation. She's always able to talk film. Is she loud sometimes? Yes, she's absolutely loud.
I love it.
But, I think that it's also one of the reasons you convinced me. Another thing, this one wasn't as hard to convince, though, with the scripted series.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea that Bonnie and I kind of developed together. And then I said, I'm going to go forward with this. And then you and I started working on it, and then we got so slammed. It's like you suggested, well, Sasha writes.
She writes like nonstop.
So
that's all she does.
So,
hey, did you set my power cable?
Your power cable's in here somewhere. Hey, say hello.
This
is the first episode.
Oh, you're recording?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. You need to put something on your door.
I know. So this is speaking of.
I do like my desk.
This is great.
He's bitter. He's so bitter that he lost. You're so bitter.
I'm bitter that I lost the.
So he says to me, "I'll trade you the desk for the treadmill." I said, "These are both mine."
I'll trade you your thing.
I'll trade your thing
for your thing.
Exactly.
You know what?
We're rolling over a power cable.
I think
we're looking for power cables. Stand by.
There was somewhere that was.
So you do your thing.
I'll find it for you. So see, this is again the thing that can happen in this podcast is anybody can walk in. So we've had an Ellis run in, we've had a Campia run in. So
who knows what's next?
So why is Sasha the right person to write this particular script?
Well, here's the thing about Sasha that's very special is I think you hit the nail on the head. She's incredibly intelligent. She knows like so much about popular culture and film, and she's passionate about it. She's eloquent. She knows how to speak her mind. But she's also fun, and one thing I want to add to what you said is she has a great sense of humor, and she's fun, and she's up for the conversation and the game and the fun of it and the laughter. But she's also like a team player, and I think that's really important. I think it's important with the Schmoes. I think it's important for any like ensemble situation, and I think most film and TV and web series are collaborative efforts when you're creating these kinds of things, when you're creating content. It's about the team. It's they say there's no I in team. or in Team America. There's no I in Team America. Yes, there is. Sorry, I have to quote Team America when I can. But I think she's a team player, and I think she's really collaborative, and I don't think she wants to steal anyone's thunder or be the star of the show.
That's what you're speaking to.
And we're like, why? Why is it so low?
It probably sounds a lot better now.
What would we do? But anyway, she's a team player, and she's not interested in like her own agenda. Her own agenda is, I know that I'm going to be strengthened by the strength of my team. So she doesn't walk in trying to like be the brand of Sasha. The brand of Sasha exists. She's confident in that.
Yeah.
So she doesn't feel the need to like have to like elbow her way in. And I think that's really fun. And it's everybody that works with her loves her because she has that like, hey dude, let's like hang out.
She's the fun. She's
fun.
The female Josh McCougan.
She really is, and that's why they get along so well,
Yeah.
because they are like the same person.
All right, but back to this question.
But she's a Habs fan.
But why is she the one to write? Because remember, Schmoeville's been waiting. They see Grasping at Straws. They've been asking for a scripted series for a long time, and we want to put out the right one. We all came to kind of the agreement that this particular idea was the one that we should do.
Yeah.
Why is Sasha the right one to write this particular show?
Well, aside from like the stuff I've said already, I think first of all she knows the crew now, so writing parts for people with people in mind is easier for her.
Right.
She also is a prolific writer, and a lot of people don't realize this, but she has. She sends me pages like, I'm writing this. It's the first 5 pages. What do you think? And it's like a brand new idea.
Right.
She's an ideas factory, and she's not precious about it. So she's not like, this is my idea and I can't share it with anyone because someone's going to steal it.
Right.
She's like, fuck it. If someone steals it, then it wasn't a great idea to begin with, and let's move on to the next one. Like she's a great writer. Like I've read a lot of her stuff, and I'm a snob, and I read a lot of scripts, and I read a lot of stuff that's meant to be made into TV or web or film, and she's a good writer. She understands how to work in Final Draft. She understands the medium. She understands how to tell stories visually.
Well, so 2 questions for you. Question 1, are you excited for what she's going to turn out for this first script that we're about to get?
Yes, I'm very excited.
Question 2, are you scared what she's going to write for you?
Yes, I am terrified. I am scared and thrilled.
Yeah, it's going to be. So that is something that we are definitely working on, guys, to bring that to you guys. We're working on the script. We're waiting for a couple of script meetings and things of that nature. So we will definitely get that to you. But one last thing to kind of hit upon before we end the first episode here. So why, Schmoes? Why do you want to work with us? Why do you?
Am I being interviewed right
Yeah,
now? Is this
being interviewed.
Oh my god!
But why? Not what I'm just curious. Like, what is it about? Like, 'cause if you were with a bunch of your friends, like on the beach, and you guys were just talking, they're like, "Why do you work with those guys? Like, what is it about?"
Those bunch of idiots.
What do you? Seriously, there's a guy in a mask. And there's another guy with a backwards hat talking about...
Because it's fun. I don't know. One of the things that I think has happened with film journalism or the blogosphere is people take themselves way too seriously. Like, we're talking about movies.
Right.
It should be fun. I agree that the analysis and the in-depth exploration of the business, whether it's box office or whatever, is interesting. Although I find box office to be a little less interesting. I think those discussions are important. I think they're fun. I think
what if it's
fun
box
to watch.
office with a guy with a beard mask?
Well, that's my point. Yeah. Is like we should not be taking this shit so seriously.
Right.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of things. I think the Schmoes crew is a great group. There's not one person in this team that I look at and think, meh, I'm not into you. There's really like.
Would you say it if there was?
Yeah, well, come on, it's me. You know, I would say it even if you didn't want to hear it. I think that it's a good group of people. I think everyone is kind of on the same wavelength. I think comedically, we all have the same kind of humor, which is important. I think that there's a great complement of personalities. And I have to say, most of all, it's the fact that you let those personalities shine. Because I've worked in a lot of different places and in a lot of different capacities. And I've been a team member of a lot of different kinds of teams. And particularly when it comes to stuff on camera, there have been, or I think there is the tendency for people who run this kind of thing, and I think this is pretty unique, to kind of want to maintain their status as like, no, this is about me, or this is about the content, and your personality should kind of go away. Like, I've done junkets, and all the personality has ended up on the cutting room floor because that's not what was the mandate of the show.
Right.
Here, personality is king. Like, personality comes before anything, and I think that's really unique. And I think it enables people that work here to feel like they're valued. And I think that's why people enjoy being a part of the team. And then I think that shows, and I think it's reflective, and I think the audience picks up on it, and the audience feels like they're part of the team. So it's like this whole trickle-down effect. And I think it's you and Mark. I think you guys are, and also you're comedians, so you're funny. It's fun to be around people who know how to make jokes.
Nice.
So there you go.
Well, good. So here I'll give you something else.
And they give me whiskey.
Yeah, see, she's bombed. I'll give you one more thing to do as a producer here, because I am very curious. I'm going to give you every crew member, and you're going to give me a little bit about what they do well and who they are.
Oh my God, that's hard.
And who they are. So I'm going to say to you a certain person, like, what is it about that person that you like, that you think that works, you think the reason the fans like them.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let's start with RB3.
RB3 is like the MVP.
The kid is awesome, isn't he?
Here's the thing. He comes in.
It's a beast.
He's so consistent, though. Like, he's always in a good mood. But he's not obnoxious. He's, like, kind, and he's mellow, but he's got energy. He's, like, just the most balanced guy. And he's on it. Like, he comes in. He doesn't have to ask a lot of questions. He just kind of does what he needs to do. He goes above and beyond, but doesn't need to be patted on the back, which I find is very rare. Usually when somebody does, like, extra credit, they're like, I did extra credit. You're like, oh, did you upload those shows? He's like, yeah, I did all of them. And you're like, what?
I asked the guy to do a video about Cobster. Angry Cobster, and I said, if you can get this done, whenever, let me know. 2 hours later, he's like, oh, finished.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, man, the kid is
he's amazing.
He is an all-star.
And he's just a great vibe. He's just cool and fun. He's hardworking, but he's not like a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
He's just a very balanced,
all right,
good dude.
Andres, Ace Man.
Ace, the Latin heat. Ace is good. He's
your crush.
He's my crush. Ace. What I love about Ace is that he's like a stick of dynamite. Like, you light him, and if it's something that lights him up, like animation or X-Men, he's so eloquent. Like, last week when he was talking about X-Men, I was like, he's actually really well-spoken. And it's not the kind of thing he advertises, but when he gets up and talks about something he cares about...
He's good on the mic. Yeah,
he's really good.
We've been giving him a lot more opportunities on the mic, too, because he really is good on the mic, and I think that's the thing with him. And the thing I'll say about Ace is that the guy, for the last year and a half, never complains about anything.
Complain
just
at all.
Does what he's. I listened to him on the because the fans started that Schmoeville podcast, which we put on the Schmoes Know podcast channel on YouTube, and I listen to it every week. And he was on Ace, and he just you listen to him, and he's really good, but he understands what he does is important as like anything else. It's as important as what Mark and I do here. And then we've been given him a lot more opportunities because
and he's like can-do guy. Like, hey, do you mind like doing this? Yeah, sure, no problem, great. Like always, it's never an issue. Never an issue.
Cody Hall.
Cody is also the MVP. Cody is also another person who just does his job, does it well, doesn't complain. He's like an island of efficiency. Like, I am like, Cody, do you need anything? He's like, nope. I got everything. I'm like, you have all the images? Yep, I have everything. And I'm like, is there anything you need from me? No, I'm good. Like, he just is like a contained unit. He is a quick learner. He's unafraid. Like, he came into the Collider Studios. He had to learn a new system.
Learned it fast.
He learned it fast.
The TriCaster back in Phase 5 pretty fast, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's just like...
12.
Yeah, he's so mature, though. Cody, to me, is like, in a way, he's like more mature than all of us. Like, I think he's more of a man. Like, he's so mature. He's just like, yeah, I got it. Like, he's just very chill. He doesn't get emotional. He doesn't get attached to anything. There's no ego. It's like a pleasure. He's just a pleasure to work with. He's super easy.
All right, clip, clop, flop, flop, flippy, flop, flop.
Cobster does... I can't even keep track of everything he does.
I love how moody he is.
He does. Oh my God, he's so moody. But I love it. I love that I love Angry Cobster. And I love the fact that the guys who are instrumental behind the scenes are also instrumental in front of the camera.
Totally.
Like, I love that about the whole crew. And I think Cobster brings so much knowledge and so much personality. I think he's extremely magnetic on camera. Everybody always, like, the chat room always goes nuts when he comes on. And, I think his knowledge of horror is amazing. I love the fact that all the guys, like, they get together and they do all of these, like, extracurricular things that are becoming their own brands. Yeah. Like, they're building their own brands, and that's amazing. So I think he's entrepreneurial, and he's confident. He's got a lot to say. He's got good opinions. He's smart.
How about JTE? JTE.
I love JTE. JTE is like a teddy bear. He's like a teddy bear.
We're thinking, Cody and I came up with a bit spelling bee with JTE. We were thinking about doing it.
Poor JTE.
What if he's? How do we know? We know he can't say it. He might be able to spell it though.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I'm curious how he would do it. Like if we had him, and we know he can't say Alejandro.
What was the Cuba Gooding Missile Crisis?
Yeah, the Cuba Gooding Jr. Missile Crisis, and Guillermo del Toro. I'm curious if he can spell it. But JTE is. He's been with us. He's one of the longest crew members. I mean,
he was an intern.
He was our first intern we ever had.
Amazing.
So I mean, you have. Yeah,
he is another one though.
Why do the fans love JT?
Because he is one of us. He's like an everyman in the best way because he has again like no ego, and he takes it on the chin. Like he gets made fun of a lot, and I'm really sensitive. And sometimes I think about it. I'm like, fuck, man. If people made fun of me the way they make fun of JT, I would be really unhappy. And I would be sad. He doesn't care.
It's not, but it's never done. I think the reason why he doesn't care, and I think it's also why you wouldn't care if it was done the same way, is because it's not done in a mean-spirited way.
No, it's not.
It's
everybody
like,
loves him.
Yeah, it's always it's like a ribbing. Even look at everything that happened with the decision. By the end of it, he's running around hugging and slamming tables with Jeff Snyder. He was the
best
perfect
is
guy.
the picture at the tent.
Oh yeah, like he sent me because what happened was like if you look at the first top 10 list we ever did for the Schmoes Know competitors. He was the number one contender, and I put a picture that he sent me from the dentist as the number one picture.
So good. He had like stuff in his mouth. And,
but he sent me. That's why he sent me that picture when we were at a meeting one day, and he didn't make the meeting. I was like, "Where are you?" And he sent me a picture of him at the dentist. Now I'm going to use that. And I used it. So JT.
JT is the love. He's just all love, and he's a sweetheart.
How about the newest member of the crew, Brett Sheridan?
I love Brett Sheridan. You know that at your birthday party, Brett Sheridan got like the number one props from Joe for being the funniest man.
Right.
For being the funniest man at your party and giving the best speech, and he's funny. He keeps comparing me to his wife. Yeah. You're like my wife. Your husband and I are alike. We're not nearly as hot as our wives. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know about that, but you know. But he's funny. No, he's Brett is like he also brings something so new and fresh because he actually does know about films.
Yeah.
But I love that he embraces what he doesn't know and is just like, I have no idea what this is. And
I've known him probably, I think, out of everyone on the crew, I know him the longest.
He's awesome.
I've known him since 1999.
He bought me a bottle of Irish whiskey. He's known me 4 weeks or whatever. And, well, somebody drank it all. It's all gone.
Yeah, he told me last week he was probably too drunk to he said, maybe I drank a little bit too much. And then, let's see, then you switch on to some more of the crew. I know that you love Ken Napzok.
I love Ken Napzok.
Yeah. What is it about Ken?
Oh, Ken. Maybe it's his Game of Thrones knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I
don't know. Maybe it's the suits or the hair. I can't figure it out.
Hair's amazing.
Ken is also, like, first of all, Sasha and I have a theory that this whole, like, oh, I don't have any women, I'm alone in my basement is an act.
No, it's not.
How is it not an act?
100% not an act. I have known Ken probably the second longest than anybody.
Well, it baffles Sasha and I because as women we're like, he's kind of amazing. He's a handsome guy. He's funny. He's smart. He's a nerd in a good way. And
but that's the thing you have to realize is that as you get older as a guy, you can kind of ease into that position to where I don't think Ken has really sees himself that way, where he certainly is that way. And like, even when I was listening to that Schmoes podcast, and like all the guys said that they were like Ace, and I think I remember who else said they were like intimidated to meet Kenny first. And like to me, that's like Ken's like the nicest person in the world, and you can approach him to do anything. But when he was younger, same thing. Like he did come like Star Wars, G.I. Joe, those whole things. Last thing that he ever thought in the world is that someone like a Miri Jedeikin or a Sasha Pearl Raver would think that he was sexy. Like,
has he been to Comic-Con? There's babes everywhere.
I know, but that's not what Ken. That's not.
It's also changed. Like the nerd culture has changed.
It has, but
it's been embraced.
If Ken embraced it, Ken could score every 5 minutes.
I mean, I have female friends that like would love Ken.
But remember though
then
that Ken and Ken talks about it all the time, so it's not something that I'm bringing up. Ken was a virgin until he was like 21.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings it up. He brought it up on the show. So I'm not like
nothing wrong with late bloomer.
Yeah. So right, and but there's a reason why. Like it took him a while to get comfortable. He certainly is now. You hear some of the conversation, like the first after hours show. The way you weren't on the first after hours show. The way he ended the show.
How did he end it?
I don't know if I could say it on the show.
Well, tell me later.
I'll tell you
Sorry,
afterwards,
guys.
but it's something about a water slide.
Oh my lord.
No. That was something he said on movie fights. It was something else. But it was still.
Oh, the Brad Pitt water slide.
Yeah, it was just as equal. I mean, he said if he said that, I mean, shit. He said
it was probably worse.
I one time turned a woman into a swear. Oh, Kenny.
Well, he's got some stuff up his sleeve.
Talking about things up his sleeve, how about Finstock? What is it about? Because Tiffany, we know Tiffany's got that kind of, every time she's the big old sighs every time he walks into the room. You're not the same with him.
I love Finstock. I don't have any problems with Finstock.
But you don't always love what comes out of his mouth.
No, I mean, but I know Finstock, I know Tom, and I know who he is. Yeah. He doesn't hate women.
He's Gollum and Smeagol.
He's not he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He's not a misogynist. I think that his bit with the chicks is sometimes like a little sexist, but I think it's, I don't know, maybe because I grew up watching like Benny Hill and Airplane, I just find it funny. I just think he's funny.
Yeah, he is.
And I get it.
He's an acquired taste.
He's an acquired taste, and I can understand why it's offensive to some people. To me, I think that the first time I met Finstock was when I was on the show for the first time, and you brought him on and you didn't tell me.
Oh, okay.
And he walked in, and everybody was like, "Oh, Finstock," and I was like, "What? What the fuck is happening right now?" And this guy walks in with this incredible wool, like Yukon Cornelius fucking weird mask. And he comes and he sits down, and then he starts like busting out all this trivia at me, and I'm like, this guy's amazing. Yeah. Like, who is he? So my first encounter with him was not like, he wasn't inappropriate with me. He did compliment my cheekbones, but that was
still does this thing.
Yeah, but that was the only thing. He was like, "Has anyone ever told you have really great cheekbones?" Like, he was just being weird. It wasn't like you're being rude or you're like being sexist or whatever. So my first encounter with him kind of paved the way of like, this guy is fascinating and funny. And isn't it amazing
how much of a turn? Like, because when he came on the show back in 2012, the fans hated him. His first episode, they hated him. Then it went from 100% of people hating him to 50-50 after his next appearance.
Now everybody loves him.
But yeah, it stayed 50-50 for a long time. But after this, I mean, it was going back up for a bit more. But then the one that really, after the decision, it's like 80-20, 90-10. He's like
the underdog now.
He's like a top face. Like, he's like one of the top like good guys in the company. So it's interesting. All right, we'll switch it over.
Did I have a 50-50? I don't.
Nah, you've always been liked. Josh McCouga.
I love McCouga.
That's it.
I love McCouga.
What is it about McCouga?
Because he's the guy at the party everybody wants to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because he's funny and he's fun.
Have you ever hung out with McCouga outside? I don't mean just you and him. I mean just in general.
No, we haven't really hung out socially other than like your birthday or things like that. But he's just a good time. He's fun. He's cool. Even though he's a Penguins fan, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't help it. It's where he's from.
Right.
I'll forgive it.
Right.
But, we can talk about hockey and he's just a good dude. He knows a lot about films, but again, he's not precious about it. And I like that. I like the fact that he's inclusive. Like, he wants to share his love for aspects of the film business, but for what he doesn't know, he's like, I don't know about that. Like, there's no ego. He's a nice guy. It's a fun time.
Let's switch. We talked about Sasha for a while. Mm-hmm. We'll switch over. Let's talk about Tiffany Smith.
Tiffany, like you and I have said this before, like, she's the consummate professional. Like, she just comes in, she'll be like, oh, I'm tired. I don't really feel well. And then she gets on camera and it's like, you would never know that she wasn't, like, she just switches it on. She's a pro. She knows her shit. And again, she's not a snob. She's really, like, wants to share her love for things. And when she likes, and I love the fact that she always says, like, I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Yeah. And I think that's her brand.
But that's why she fit into Schmoes, because that was always our mantra, and she definitely fit into it. She's been, Tiffany has been with us she replaced Katie Sackhoff. She's been with us for a long time.
Yeah,
she's just not around as much anymore.
She's busy.
But anytime she's available, she always tells us she's available, and Tiffany is a sweetheart. She's always Schmoes.
She's awesome, and she's one of the few women, and we have to like stick together. And she's,
well, and we have Sinead now too, though.
I know.
And so Sinead, we haven't used her as much, but she's going to be coming in a lot too. And Sinead, we're still learning about Sinead.
I like Sinead.
Yeah, me too.
I've always liked Sinead because Sinead is like, I don't know, when you have a very like sensitive bullshit meter like I do, people like Sinead are so great because she's no bullshit.
Total honesty. Yeah.
And I love that because when I meet her, I'm like, I can tell you exactly the deal, and I know that you're gonna meet me on that level and not be full of shit.
Well, let's close out strong, starting with Mark Riley.
Mark Riley is the man. He's Riley man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riley and I have had so many chats over the last couple of years and got to know each other, and he's such a wonderful mixture of being a total intellectual and a nerd, but a total softie.
Yeah.
Like, he's all love, and he's super loyal, and when he believes in what he's doing, which he does with Schmoes and with Collider, he puts everything into it.
Yeah.
Which is why he's sick today.
Yeah,
which is very sad.
He is sick today.
Feel
He's not
better.
on the show. All right, close out with two idiots. Mark Ellis.
Ellis is the best. He's not as good as you. Don't worry. No,
you don't have to say that.
You guys are both the good. You guys are both the best. No, Ellis is.
We want honesty, Miri Jedeikin.
Okay, Ellis. Out of anyone, the person who makes me laugh inappropriately loudly while you're doing the show when I'm off camera is Ellis. His jokes, like, I told my husband Joe, I told him the other day, I was like, Ellis you can tell that he's like warm because he's touring a lot and he's doing a lot of stand-up because on the show, he's on fire.
Yeah.
He's on fire. Like, he just says shit and it's funny.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you do that? You just make funny shit up in your head and it just comes out.
Right.
He's like a real, like, he's
a pro, man. I mean,
he's a total pro.
The thing
He's
about
so
Ellis,
funny. He kills me.
Well, Ellis, the thing is, I remember when he and I first started hanging out, because I remember I was at the Comedy Store like every day. That was my home. And I remember having a little bit of hiatus and going back. And I already knew Ellis because I helped him get in the Comedy Store. And he was up there. He had been spending a lot of time there, and I hadn't seen him kind of go up in a while. And I saw him go up. And this is like 2006 or so. And I remember watching him going, this kid's quick.
Yeah.
Like, he was quick.
Super sharp.
And he just, the amount, like, how he just comes up with these references really fast and pieces things together in a way that it's not like, it's not too over the top, and he really knows how to hit it in a way. I mean,
it's very natural.
And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
he just
so
gets
good.
better and better and better.
I want to go see one of his shows next time.
You've never seen? Yeah,
no,
you should.
I've never
you know
seen
what
his
you should
stand-up.
do?
I've seen it on YouTube.
Well, you and my wife should actually go to. You guys should go see when he's there, and Rick Ingram, who my wife loves.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys should have a ladies' night and go out.
Yeah, we should.
And do it. And then
we
me.
do a lot of things. And then you.
You hate me.
I hate you. No, here's what I love about working with you is that you bust my balls and I bust your balls, but it's all in good fun. And there's never, like, if there's ever an issue, we talk about it. There's just no politics. And it's rare because when you work in this industry, there's so many personalities. And you have a big personality and I have a big personality, but I think you're very collaborative. And I love the fact that I can come to you with, like, for example, the set and the thing that's happening, which we're not going to talk about yet. But I was like, hey, what do you think about this? You're like, I love it. Let's do it. It's like there's no weird... If you like an idea, you say yes. If you don't, you say no. And then we just move through. Like, it's just easy. It's just easy. And I think we get along really well. We're good collaborators. I think we have good chemistry on camera, obviously. Otherwise, people wouldn't assume we were married. Which, by the way, it's not marriage. Like, I'm always laughing. People are like, oh, they're married. I'm like, guys, no. Married people bicker. Like,
right.
We are not married. That's
right.
the whole thing. Cody's here.
Yeah, Cody's here. So if you...
We were talking about you, Cody.
What's up with you, Cody? Yeah, we were. We'll have you on this show eventually. Well, let me turn the tables and go back to you. Ken Knapsack was the producer of this show for a long time, and Ken was someone who would keep the show together. And it was Ken who said, because Ken helped Kenny get a job over at Screen Junkies, and you had started coming on the show a lot. You were doing, and at this point, you and I had been doing reviews together. We were kind of getting along. And Ken's like, so let me ask you questions. What would you think about Miri producing? And I didn't even think of it. I said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense because of the conversations that just to hear the way you got the idea of what Schmoes is and even was back then. And since then, it's like you are my wife. You're my work wife.
I'm your work wife. I know.
And you are because there are things that I do well and there are things that I do terribly. And those things I do terribly, you have taken that and you have absolutely helped grow this thing.
Thank you.
Well, I mean that because like there are things that I know that I'm like, I don't have to worry. There was this part to when you weren't around and I'd be like, well, shit, I got to do this, 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 and this. And now I go, no, Miri's got it. I know that I can entrust in the fact that if I have it, you manage the crew, you do all that. So, guys, if you don't know exactly how much Miri does, she does a ton of shit. And she's one of the reasons that Phase 6 has been as great as it has been. So we thank you, not only in Schmoeville, but the Schmoes crew here.
I love doing it. It's super fun. Thank you for having me be your producer, and I'm looking forward to like all the ideas that we have. So many ideas and things we want to do, and it's just a matter of time. So
well, the cops are coming, and so are the ambulance, because I'm sure that Brett Sheridan fell down and hurt himself. So this was the first episode of the Kristian Harloff podcast. I'll be doing more of these. Miri will obviously be back, and we'll do some more stuff.
I think Sasha and I are going to do stuff too.
Yeah, Miri will do a show. We'll have a whole bunch of people doing. So this was just one. This is a special kind of bonus episode. Let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments for the RSS feed here on the Schmoes Know show. Just go ahead and comment. Say I liked the side one, the side episodes of the Kristian Harloff show. I didn't like it. Here's what I'd like to see. Here are the guests that I'd like to have. What other shows would you like to see?
Yeah.
Do all that stuff, and make sure the most important thing is to rate and comment on this episode. It is very, very important. Also, if you didn't already know, the Schmoes Know merch store, it's up and running. You can go on over there. Go to any one of our YouTube videos, and you can check out the link in the description. Miri still hasn't worn the shirt that we got her.
I did to sleep, actually. I didn't mean to wear it to sleep, but I put it on, and then I passed out. I woke up at like 4 in the morning.
See,
I fell asleep with a Schmoes Know shirt. I love my Schmoes Know shirt. It's a little tight.
All right. So that's why you won't wear it on the air?
I'll wear it on the air, but
all right. Well, 1,000 fans just screamed hooray at the same time.
It's not that exciting, guys.
That's it, guys. That's the show.
Thank you again. We do have to go.
I know we do, because cops are going to get mad that we're not at the meeting at 6:30. So make sure that you follow Miri at Miri Jedeikin. Obviously from me, Kristian Harloff, at Kristian Harloff, Schmoes Know, YouTube, the whole thing. Once again, very important that you guys rate and comment this particular show on iTunes. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Peace out, Mother Fs.
Peace out.